I'm going to call our January 22nd Virginia Passenger Rail Association board meeting to order. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Let's get the safety briefing.
No, that'll be Lamar Bates. Safety director.
All right.
Yeah.
Here from Lamar.
All right, Madam Chair, Executive Director, members of the board, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, my name is Lamar Bates, Sixth Director for VPRA. Let's begin our safety briefing. Our address is 919 East Main Street, on the fourth floor. Exit left around the corner. On your left is the women's restroom. If you exit to your right, around the corner on the right is the men's restroom. There's a stairwell and a fire alarm near each restroom. There's a fire extinguisher across from the women's restroom. If you go down the hall from the women's restroom, there's a fire extinguisher on the right near the tie wardrobe. For safety assignments, when I call your name, please raise your hand. Calling 911, Mary Estelle Douglas. Backup, Michael Westerman. CPR, myself, Lamar Bates. Backup, Joe Urbanus. Meeting first responders, Michael Clark. Backup, PJ Styler. There's an AED at the security desk. There's a first aid kit on the table against the wall. If we must evacuate, ensure the person to your left is present at our assembly point at North 9th and Capitol Square. If you see something, say something. Call security or 911. If there's an active shooter, flee, hide, or fight. For those participating virtually, be aware of phishing emails and scams. And know your medical emergency and evacuation strategies. Do we have any questions?
No, sir. I don't have a question. I just have one item to add. The stairwells are for evacuation only. If you go to the stairwell looking to go to another floor, you won't be able to go to that floor. You can only exit the ground level.
That's correct.
The cafeteria floor below is what you can go.
That's correct. Thank you for that. Any additional questions? All right, let's have a safe day.
Wow.
Thank you. It's great. Well, I want to welcome everyone and thank you for the warm welcome that many of you gave me as well. I'm Maria Zimmerman. I am the new director for rail and public transportation for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it is wonderful to be with you here today and to be back with the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority Board that I was very privileged and happy to be a member of. Just as VPRA was kind of getting up and running the first couple of years. So on behalf of Governor Spanberger and Secretary Donovan and myself, I just want to affirm this administration's commitment to continued investment in state's passenger rail network to make it safer, to make it more efficient and more connected to all parts of our state, to provide affordable, reliable, and convenient rail service across the Commonwealth. I've worked on transportation issues for almost 30 years, and throughout that time, transit and rail have always been my passionate areas of focus. And so it's really a thrill to be the chair of your board and to be the director of DRPT. I see some familiar faces around the table. Others, it's nice to meet you, and I hope and look forward to opportunities to really work together closely here over the coming years. And I also, since I've left VPRA board in 2022, there has been a lot happening through your efforts and really through the terrific leadership of DJ Statler and the entire team at VPRA. It's been great to see all the work that's been underway. While I was at, most recently, the U.S. Department of Transportation, we really, it was exciting to be able to support all the work happening in Virginia. I think not last but least, but the Long Bridge project is a hugely important project to the entire nation of what we have underway there, and really a critical project here for the state and for VPRA. So I'm excited to see that construction is now underway. But I also know, as a frequent rider, I took Amtrak every week for about 3 years, that the impacts to current riders, I think it's important, everything that we can do to communicate that to people, to help folks, and I know it's very much on VPRA's work to make that a seamless transition for people and to get that project on time and on budget. So I'm confident with our ability to be able to continue partnering with the U.S. Department of Transportation, with Maryland, with the District of Columbia, with Alexandria, and with Arlington over the next few years as that project continues to move forward. And kind of last but not least, I mean, it's just exciting. I hope everyone knows Virginia is really a national rail leader, both in the state's commitment to rail investment, to provide convenient, safe, and affordable mobility, also in the successful partnerships. I think we have some real models for the nation of how we've been partnering with our private rail carriers, with Amtrak, with communities, and the deep cross collaboration that's happening with the public and with other important stakeholders through this work. And I think we see that in our record-breaking ridership that we've had over the last few years and our consistently strong safety record. So excited to see that all continue. And I'm excited to welcome 2 additional new members to VPRA. We have Katie Clow, the new CEO of the Virginia Railway Express, with 25 years of program management and safety oversight leadership in the transportation sector. So, Katie, I don't know if you want to say a quick hello to folks.
I am thrilled to be here and look forward to working with everyone. I started at VPRA on Tuesday. So bear with me as I learn as I go.
Great. And we also have Benny Zhang, who is with us. He's an attorney at Kaufman and Canoles, sorry.
You're good.
So your legal practice spans corporate, securities, zoning, and estate planning laws. So Benny, welcome, and invite you to say a few words.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Madam Chair. My name is Benny Zhang. I'm just thrilled to be here, to be appointed by the prior governor and to continue into this administration. And I served one time life ago, a term on the city council. I was the second student that got elected on that body. But with that, I served as the vice president for the Virginia Transit Association. So I know some of the familiar faces around. I'm glad to just jump back into the transit world. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Here.
Ms. Cho,
Here.
Mr. Coe,
Here.
Mr. Delano,
Here.
Ms. Dorsch, Mr. Flowers,
Here.
Mr. Jordan, Ms. Lawrence,
Here.
Ms. Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Payne, Ms. Reinhardt,
Here.
Ms. Spears, Mr. Watkins,
Here.
Mr. Zhang.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Estelle. Next, we have public comment, and we did receive a written public comment. A copy has been shared of all the board members, and so we received this comment concerning construction around the Charlottesville Amtrak station. That comment has been distributed to the board. Each of you have copies in front of you. We do not have any sign up for public comment here today in person. So we will move next to the approval of meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
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 All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Those opposed? And the ayes carry it. All right. I will turn to DJ Statler for the executive director's report.
Wonderful. Thank you. And welcome. Good to see everybody in this first board meeting of the year. The big topic that we'll be talking a lot about today, and the chair talked about it, is Long Bridge. One of the things that you've heard about at the last 5 meetings is the importance of getting the construction team time to work on Long Bridge. And to do that, we put work windows in place, we made service adjustments. Those started last Monday, and Jeremy will talk more about them this afternoon. But I think they went as well as we could have expected. Our PR team did a great job of getting the word out. We had a lot of folks at the stations. We had a lot of folks on trains. We heard a lot of, I don't love the fact that my schedule had to change. But what we didn't hear was this was a surprise to us. What we also didn't hear was, I don't understand why we have to do this. The resounding, I get it. We need a new bridge. This is going to help us in the long run. I think people understand why we're doing it. So the first week, knock on wood, I think went well. The team's done a good job of lessons learned. Tuesday was much better than Monday. Wednesday was much better than Tuesday. Today, at least as of the morning reports, is much better than last week. So we continue to work well together. VPRA's been a great partner. We have VPRA staff on the platforms as well. So far so good. You can go to our website. You've got the QR codes there. There's a lot of information out there on these service changes. But so far so good, and we'll continue to update you. We also have in place a construction map, so people can find out. And we talked about this a couple meetings ago when we've got traffic disruption like on the avenue. We started that in the fall. As we're making changes to people's flow, we've got community advocacy groups where we're going out and giving them, here's what you're going to see in February, here's what you're going to see in March. So the communication continues to be strong, and we'll continue to get positive feedback on that. I encourage anyone, if they've got questions or comments from the public, reach out. We've got email address and respond.
Yeah, DJ, to that end, I received a lot of text, emails, and a couple of people even dropped the flyer that you guys put out in Pentagon City and Crystal City to me. It's been very welcomed, and it was really nice because you had a map. You said what was going on. It was really good. So thank you. I think your team did a really great job.
Okay, happy to hear that. I actually told them not to spend so much money, but they said that we get good press.
Yeah, you really are. It is your money well spent because, again, like I said, I think I received at least 10. So, and a couple of people even dropped it in the mail to me because they asked me if I got it, and I said no. So they sent it to me in the mail, which is great. I mean, whatever. But
Just send it to board members, and they didn't listen.
but that was it was so smart, well done, and they really did appreciate it to know what's going on. And you are seeing some of the construction, so that's good too.
Yeah, we have the live construction cameras that we watch, and it's good to see over the last week the cranes moving and see changes. We've got some pictures of the construction update. So thank you. Just an update on our organizational goals. I'll go through these a little more slowly than normal just because we've got a couple new folks. We always put our goal, to date, we put our goals into different categories. Really, that's why we're here. We're doing capital projects better than anyone in the history of capital projects. If no one's riding the train, we're not doing our job. So ridership and revenue, always what we're looking for. Long bridge is, as I mentioned, now our biggest projects. We have a category just for those milestones. The third category is the other major projects. And then, of course, the fourth one is as we continue to grow as an organization. Sometimes we kind of pinch ourselves and say, whoa, we've only been at this for not even 5 years. Those goals represent us continuing to become a mature and efficient organization. Ridership and revenue, we are in good shape. Halfway through the year, we're more than halfway on both of those. I don't want folks to get fooled into complacency there, though, because with the service changes that started last week, we likely will see some downturn in that, and we're expecting that. But so far, so good. And as we talked about, getting the word out, being flexible on schedules is a big part of that. Long bridge, we're on track. Everything's going well. As Ms. Boucher talked about, construction is moving at a good pace. Good communication with the folks on the construction teams, both for the North package and for the South package. Key milestones for other projects. As of right now, we are on track for those 4. We do have some utility issues on the bypass where moving the utilities is taking longer than we expected. So we're looking for ways to mitigate that delay. But as of now, we're on track. I would say that's the one, the North and South Shoot West sub-base by August is the one that's at the biggest risk. Working with the utility company that's actually, I think I can say the utility, right, Michael? I'm not going to say the name, but it's a utility that moves the jet fuel to the airport. So we're very careful about how we're handling that. But hopefully we'll be able to get them to work in a manner that helps us continue to move that forward. And then finally, the organizational goals. We talk about this a lot internally. We probably don't talk about it enough in this meeting. But as we purchase right-of-way, the responsibility for maintenance comes to us eventually. And we need to make sure that we're prepared for that responsibility. CSX, Norfolk Southern have been really good partners with us sharing the current asset information. But as we are going to develop standards, and we talked a little bit earlier about the snow that's coming and how important it is for the railroads to clear the trees and make sure that the trains that are running have a clear path. Those responsibilities shift to us. So this asset management work is going to be tremendously important for us as we get closer and closer to 2030. Any questions on the goals? And those are all on track at this point. Any questions on the goals? Anything from the ELT that I should have said that I did, or I shouldn't have said that I did? Let's go. Okay. Updates on General Assemblies. I think everybody knows we are at the beginning of General Assembly. It started on the 14th. It's a long session, so the last couple of days we've got the governor who has repeatedly been incredibly supportive of the work we're doing. So that's been great. Two minor bills that are going through that affect us. You see the numbers up there. They're basically peanut. So we talked about this. Our enabling legislation had some discrepancies or lacked some clarity and is giving us some authorities that were intended to be like VDOT, intended to be like the Spaceport and Port Authority. These are just minor bills that clean up that easier for folks to understand and follow. Actually, if they're passed, they make our job easier and be much more efficient. But other than that, we track the new bills that are coming in every day. None of them so far have been a problem for us, or if they have, we talk to the appropriate folks, but knock on wood, so far so good. Long Bridge construction phase project addendum. So back at a previous board meeting, you all gave me the authority to enter into this agreement. So what this is that we've got our project agreement, and then as we move forward with CSX, we enter into addendums to that project agreement. And that addendum sets the terms for the construction work that CSX is going to do specifically here on Long Bridge. So our construction partners do the construction, but the rail specific work is being done by CSX. We gave you a bigger briefing on this last time. When you all give me authority, I had authority for 90 days. We're at about 106 days right now. This agreement is now very close to being ready to be signed, but it wasn't within the 90 days. The big holdup there was we were finalizing language on the work windows. It clearly says that here's what the window is going to look like. Because that negotiation took longer than we expected, this hasn't been signed. So what I'm asking for today is you all to reauthorize me to enter into this agreement, and hopefully get it signed. So we can get a motion for that. Happy to answer any questions.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Ayes carried.
Thank you. All right, passenger service updates. This is nothing but good news. I mean, I am thrilled to make this presentation because this is nothing but good news. Ridership continues to set records. December, we just got the December data in, and it's the highest single month in Virginia State Sport history. So shout out to the team.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this a little later, but the implementation of the customer service standards with Amtrak has really been positive. Riders say, wow, I mean, the restrooms are clean, then we had a great experience. It's really been a good team effort to get people, more people on the train. This is our overall ridership. You see, we are above last year. I'll go route by route. Norfolk set a record, actually. The Norfolk route set the highest monthly ridership for their individual service. You see the other service all continue to be good news. Another thing that's important as I go route by route, the customer on time. We were struggling a little bit. We had a lot of the on time performance was fine, but it wasn't where we wanted it to be. And on 3 of our 4 routes, we've seen good improvement on that. We continue to work on that. Look, a lot of that is on the capital projects. Once we get the capital projects done and we have more infrastructure and less bottleneck situations, we'll do even better. But that is another good news story. So this is Roanoke. We've got the 2 daily round trips. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because it's all good news. But if you have any questions, happy to answer them. Here's the Norfolk Buchanan, where it's 77% on time performance. That's a much better number than it was last year. And then finally, Richmond. And good news. Mike.
Well, one thing, we didn't think we would break the December of riders last year, because last year, the last day of the Thanksgiving break was in December. Whereas this year, the full of Thanksgiving fell into November. So the fact that we actually surpassed last year shows you the desire for people to take train, avoid congestion on the road. So it is really a show of what we're doing here is such a good thing and needed by the public.
And then this is just the chart we show every month that compares our state sport ridership per train to the other big states, Pennsylvania, New York, and North Carolina. You see we still are well above what they're experiencing, which are still they're setting records as well in many cases. We attribute a lot of that to the fact that it's less than favorable. Customer service standards. So I talked about this earlier, but this is the first quarter where the customer service standards are met. We are the only state right now that has such an agreement with Amtrak. What it does is it sets out these 17 standards, and there are inspections that take place that ensure that Amtrak is meeting these standards. We gave a year grace period to Amtrak where we worked with the program. The good news, and I'm overusing the word partnership today, I apologize, but it's a partnership with Amtrak. So when it first started, the head of operations at Amtrak and I sent a letter out to all of the crews saying, look, you're going to see inspectors, you're going to see these scorecards. These are not a gotcha situation. We're not looking to get people in trouble. We're looking to find places that are either underinvested in or when we're not paying attention that customers may not be happy with. And as you see, going from the top of that little chart on the bottom, there's a whole lot of pink on that first line. And then you get down to the bottom, most recent, the fourth quarter 2025, you see a lot more green, a lot less pink. So this is the first quarter where we actually went live. We've talked about this before, and I'm happy to talk to you all about it in more detail. But we have a structure set up where if there's a quarter that they miss, Amtrak misses, they've got to come up with a remediation plan. And there's a whole process for how we can work together to make those pink categories green. But another one, we've gotten great feedback, not only from passengers who have seen better experiences on the train, but also from crew members saying, look, I've been complaining about this for a long time. Thank you for giving it the attention it needs because we want it to be fixed. I mean, crew members we find want passengers to have good experiences as well. And then cost recovery, we're going to talk more about this in finance. 96% is tremendous, but let's not applaud yet. A big part of that is the way that we allocate our grants. Again, we'll talk more about it in finance. So this year, because the first half of this fiscal year, we have had so much work being done on capital projects. A lot of our spending, even all of our administrative costs, we allocate to each capital projects. Last year, we had less spending on capital projects, and at the end of the year with FRA, we reconcile and we had to. So here's what we spend on capital projects, and then we allocate overhead to those capital projects. That overhead rate last year is what we used to put overhead in place, and then at the end of the year, we'll reconcile. Because the capital work has gone up so much, which is great, and that's something to applaud for. But that overhead is much higher than it should have, so we reconcile that. We can't reconcile it FRA until the end of the year. We're going to work with them and figure out a better way. So we'll get to a later chart that says we spent X amount of money on admin costs, and a negative amount is actually our year to date. It's just not, it's a bookkeeping phenomenon that will fix when we so at the end. We think that the cost recovery rate's probably right in the 70s where we think it should be. 96 is not. 96 is the number that's calculated today, but that's not the number. So any questions on that? And then here's the operations budget overall, and you see the categories. We're actually in pretty good shape across the board. Our operating expense, Amtrak has been charging us less than we expected. They also are focused on efficiency, as I'm sure you folks have read, and you've been seeing that in the cost of the projects. So again, as I started off with all good news. Here's that same show numbers. Nothing so staff is alarming. Capital projects. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin?
Jay, just well done on cost recovery. I mean, listen, that even if we're going to adjust our accounting, right? I mean, 70% is amazing, right? In terms of passenger rail, public sector, and so that the idea that we're sitting here and that we can provide excellent service, record ridership that's fiscally sound. I mean, hats off to the team.
Thank you, appreciate that. And look, on that chart, I didn't highlight it, but last year was over 70. The year before that was over 70. You're exactly right. Public transit, anything over 70, you should have. Yeah, but it's not good enough. But yeah.
And also just put a pin. I mean, I do think Amtrak. I want to give them credit for their improvements on the customer service side, and for us to have that baked in as our expectation. I think it is good. You can see it at the stations, getting more TLC, and on the trains, and just the condition of the trains. It's really improved. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, we can talk about Washington Union Station. Or in Washington Union Station, the improvements, the clarity, they really have shown a great commitment to Glasgow.
So I'm going to be quick because for a lot of these projects, we have construction updates. But for those who have been here who are new,
We want to keep the same cadence that you're going to see in the monthly reports DJ sends out. So we're going to, even when we have months, we have construction updates on these projects, we keep these in the executive director's report. And a few things I do want to point out before we get to the construction updates. Next, you see project costs. That's all in project costs. That's not the contract. That's not the contract we have with, say, Skanska. Some of our even rail partners say, wait, that budget's higher than we expected. Was because it includes our costs. It might include the cost of CSX, might include the cost of Kinley Horn, the program manager, includes past costs such as design. So again, you all did not approve the $1.6 billion contract for Skanska. It was closer to $1 billion. But that includes all in costs, including contingency and so on and so forth. But again, we're going to get
Rich, just clarity, that's not overage. I talked earlier about us allocating our internal costs. Our internal costs are in that.
yes, exactly. So again, Long Bridge North, Skanska Flatiron is our contractor, and DJ already talks about work windows and the work going on out there. Long Bridge South, our contractor is Trumbull Fay Wegman. They go by Long Bridge Rail Partners. It's okay to call them Trumbull Fay Wegman. And they're doing the work over the Potomac. So the north is in DC. This works over the Potomac. They're also doing the Pet Bike Bridge that DC and others are contributing to. Alexandria Fort Track, again, another project that's going to be in a construction updates report. This is work that's closely tied in with the VPRA's work at King and Commonwealth as well. And we had that groundbreaking back in October up at the Alexandria Force Station. This project's also going to benefit from some of the work windows too. And I also do want to point out that you see the little VPRA symbol there, right about here. There's something called Seminary Yard that I think the VPRA team says in their sleep, because they are putting trains there for the help with the work windows, and they're going to be moving their midday storage facility from up near Union Station, up near Amtrak, down to Seminary Yard. So there's a lot going on in this area. You also got the Alexandria Station improvements and Crystal City Station improvements. So Alexandria Fort Track is something like 6 projects. A lot of work going on there. We're going to get into this during the construction updates report. Same with Franconia Springfield Bypass, Flatiron, Herzog is the joint venture there. Also work going on out there. I heard Marie and others say they take the train. If you take the train, you'll see the trees cleared. You see grade crossings happening. We have some pictures this Jeff's going to show later on that. Franconia Lorton Third Track is a project you hear a lot more about moving forward. We're going to talk about it a few times today. This is a project in the same area as the Franconia Bypass. It is 6 miles, which is a big chunk of miles. CSX loves it when they get 6 more miles of dispatch with Third Track. You're going to hear a lot more about it because it's going to procurement later this year. CSX will put the bid on the street this summer. And this is at, as you can see, at final design, and we'll be ready to bid later this summer. So this is a project similar to last year when we had the Alexandria projects and other projects moving forward. You'll continue to hear more and more about this project. And construction updates today too. New River Valley, I was just out there yesterday with Rob and others. They have an amazing amount of work. In fact, it's happening so fast. Some of the pictures we're going to show you today are not as up to date as I wished. I don't want to scare Mary Stell and say I have new pictures to insert at 9:30 this morning. I didn't do that to you, Mary Stell. But just week by week, the progress there has been great. Again, we have video and picture to show you about that later. This is one that Norfolk Southern is constructing. Andrew Zach Kitson is their contractor, and the community is so excited about this project. Some other projects you hear a lot more about this year, and we'll include a map in the future, are sidings projects. Now, what are sidings? Sidings are about 3 miles long. Why is that different from a 6 mile third track? 6 mile third track, the trains will continue to run. On a siding, the train, usually a freight train, will pull over and stop for the most part. But in the future, the sidings are going to be merged into the other tracks. You're going to have a continuous track. So the sidings you hear a lot more about are siding A, which we have talked about. That's near Leland Station in the Stafford County area. And there's actually 3 projects in one there. We've talked about this with some of the board in the past. We have to close Leland Road. So that's a project that we put out an early procurement. We also have a utility project. So there's up and down the rail corridors, you're going to have utilities. You're going to have pipelines, you're going to have sewers. In this case, there's some sewers and other utilities for Stafford County. The Stafford County is going to pay us back. So actually, the dollar amount you see, Stafford's going to pay us back over a few years. I'm looking over the finance. More than us nodding their head. So that's a cost that they have to with their contract with CSX. And CSX says you need to move that.
by contract, they have to move it, but they came to us and said, we're a little resource constrained. You guys are already out there in the field. This is something you can do. So we're undertaking that. And then there's the actual track work, which is the top one, which is the big dollar amount, the 157 million. But that project and Leland Road is going to be closed starting about this time next year. So that's something more. We'll hear more. I'm looking at Katie, who has board members from Stafford, who will be hearing more. We have already been out to talk to them. We've been to FAMPO, which is the Fredericksburg area MPO. We've been to Stafford County itself and to VDOT. So we've already been working. They know it's coming, but it's getting real later this year, early next year.
Like,
Yes.
I'm sorry, just for the board's benefit, the Stafford County utility relocation, we don't have a line item in our budget for that. So later in this meeting, we can ask the ability to add a line item. What that line item will do will just allow us to spend the money and then have money come back in for third-party projects. So am I misspeaking?
We have a line item. I think that in our budget, the cost is going up a little bit more. But again, to be covered by Stafford County.
So it'll be cut. Okay, thank you.
That someone's not a yes, someone more not a yes. There is a change. The change is that the cost is going up again. Because when we first had set our budget, it was a 0% design. Now that we have, and you'll hear, especially new members, you hear this over and over again, the members who've been on the board, we really don't like to put out a cost estimate, 0% design. Those who have been in the construction industry understand 30% is better. It's not perfect, but you at least have an order of magnitude of 30% design. So we're at that point where we have a better cost estimate. So that's the change you're going to see today.
Thank you.
Other exciting projects. So Potomac Creek third track. That is, sorry, I already talked about that. Let me go next page. Taylorsville third track, Hanover County. It's north of Ashland. It is not in Ashland. We're not building a third track in Ashland. It's way north of Ashland. Just want to be clear for anyone that's listening. It's south of the Doswell interchange. For anyone who takes the train, you see an old depot there, the Doswell. It's just south of that, but it goes for 2 miles. That is a relatively new project. We moved it because some of you might remember, for an older project we have, which is called the Hanover Third Track, we would have to rebuild Route 1. While we love building new things for VDOT, we don't love it that much. So we don't want to rebuild a new bridge if it wasn't necessary. Up at Taylorsville, there's a road that we have to cross under that is already wide enough for up to 4 tracks. It's actually the road into the amusement park there. So we don't have to build a new road there. So that's why we moved the siding a little bit north. Now let's go to Woodbridge Station. If you think about that, it's just south of there. That is another siding that will actually eventually tie in other sidings north of that. That is one that's also coming online. So all these C, D, E, and F are generally at 0. Well, we're a little bit past 0% design. We're getting to 30% design later this year. The reason I'm pausing on this slide is because later this year, you will hear a lot more about that 30% design cost estimate. So there could be changes. It probably won't be for the May budget, but we could have amendments in the summertime, much like we had last summer for Alexander Ford Track, when we get that 30% cost estimate for these projects, because they're at 0% design now, and we might have new costs that we should have new cost estimates later probably this summer for these projects. Woodbridge is obviously the Woodbridge Station. Aquia Creek is in Stafford County. Think the Brook Station there, that's the Brook Station in Stafford. And Crossroads is near Spotsylvania, is at the south end of the VPRA territory, to add some track and crossovers there. So you'll be hearing a lot more. I'm generally done. L'Enfant is a project that we are contributing over $50 million to, 53.2, that VPRA is leading. And I believe they're putting that procurement out soon on the street for a CMGC, which is similar to our bypass procurement. I think we're going to cover some of these other Alexandria Station during construction updates reports, and King and Commonwealth Bridges, again being led by VPRA, with most of the funding coming from VPRA. Because VPRA already had an Alexandria Station project, and to have one contractor for that, another contractor for the bridge literally next to it, would have made no sense. You need to have one contractor for that area. CSX is already doing the track work north and south of it. These are in the report. I don't have to go over each one of them. Ettrick Station, I will say, though, we are 100% design and moving forward with that. I think you'll see a budget amendment for that today. We are, when you
build a new parking lot, you often touch the drains below it. Touching the drains below it means you're doing some heavier construction work and costing a little more money there. So you will see a budget amendment later today for Ettrick. I do want to point out that Stanton Station, we will have a Fed State Partnership Grant. So we had a current Fed State Partnership Grant, and that the FRA held last year and said, we're not going to award. They combined the money together. It was over $5 billion, I believe, for Fed State Partnership. So we're applying for 3 projects. One is Stanton Station. Another one is Richmond Layover Facility. We have a funding gap there. And the third one is design for what we call the Occoquan River Third Track, which would tie into the Franconia River Third Track. That is next. That is the phase 3 project, but we want to get the design going. We do have some design for the northern 2 miles of that, but it's over 4 miles, almost 5 miles. So that we're just applying for design for the Occoquan River Third Track. The Occoquan River is not going to be a small project. For anyone who's driven by Route 1 or gone by the train, bridge is high up, can't close Route 1 to build it. It's not going to be an easy project. Some people like the challenge, like the fun. I think we have some engineers that do. So, but that's one we got to get into a design to see what a true cost estimate is for that. So, and again, here are our expenditures. I should say our expenditures are prorated throughout the whole year. There are some projects where you will have a big jump, especially when you have an insurance or bond payment or something of that happens. So if some of them are underneath what we thought we'd expect, some months you'll see a big jump. I know for Long Ridge and the bypass, I just approved some large payments. We call it either mobilization payment or insurance payment. Same for Western Rail. I think you'll see some big jumps, especially for the when you say Cambridge platform, that's the New River Valley. We actually have 2 projects there. It's the project at Cambridge, which is in Christiansburg, and then Radford Layover Facility. We visited both yesterday. And right away acquisition, we keep this in every update and the monthlies as well. And you can see the progress being made. We talked to the board about, I think it's been about 2 years now, with some of the challenges of right of way, and that the val maps, the survey work we did was different from the val maps. So you have to do the right of way. You have to get that under your feet before you begin construction, because you do not want to stop a construction project when a neighbor says, wait a second, that's my land. So we cleared all that out. We're at the point, when we get to the point where we see the light at the end of the tunnel, we talk to CSX, for instance, and say, hey, can you put that procurement out? Because if you put it out in June, by August, the right of way is going to be complete, and you're not going to award it to September or October anyway. So we do work with the freight railroads to not always wait until right of way is done before we put out procurement. We want to get moving as fast as possible. And CSX allowed us to do that in Alexandria 4-track, for instance. And I think that's generally it for me. I talked about some of the grant projects, and February 6th is the date. Here's the dollar amount that we're going to be applying, the date for those projects I mentioned. We also are applying for a smaller grant from the Central Virginia Transportation, which is, I think, about as old as we are. I think roughly about the same time frame. Maria's giving me
Close,
yeah. But I think similar to, say, MBTA, where they give out grants and they receive money, we are applying for that, for a grant there as well. So any questions?
Yes. I noticed the Richmond to Raleigh
Yes.
suspended the where the negotiations with North Carolina and the FRA bringing that.
So North Carolina, I'm always a little hesitant to speak for another state, but they have been in conversations with us. So I'm going to try to encapsulate that. They've been talking to FRA about obligating the $58 million grant for design for Richmond to Raleigh. It's not full design. It's a preliminary level design. And I've been told they've had good conversations with the FRA on that. They also have another grant, a $1.1 million grant for construction. They're also in conversations with. That is further toward Raleigh. That is not in Virginia. But we are awaiting that grant money. We have 39.5. That's the Virginia portion. There's also some design also needs to happen in North Carolina. You're familiar with it, but for everyone's benefit, Richmond to Raleigh is abandoned corridor from Petersburg to about 9 miles in at Ridgeway, North Carolina. And then south of there's active track from Ridgeway down to Raleigh. So we have 6 segments in Virginia that we broke up by segment for design efforts. And we did put out a procurement a few years ago. We have been, I see John Kosmick back there, had a procurement. We have been in good conversations with the firms that we've been talking to for those procurements. Hopefully we'll see some movement here in the next couple of months. But conversations with Northland have been good, and we're getting good signals that they should hopefully get that grant obligated by FRA. So then money can then come for design efforts in Virginia.
Right, the Appomattox Bridge. Is that included in it?
Yeah, Appomattox Bridge. So then we have two of those 6 segments in Virginia are active track. That's segments 1 and 2. Segments 1 being Richmond and 2 being the Petersburg area, Appomattox River Bridge. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the abandoned track. And we've indicated, not just indicated, we feel very strong in North Carolina. Segment 2, the Appomattox River Bridge is one we want to see. With the limited amount of money we have, we want to make sure that gets to a level of design that we have a decent cost estimate. Because for those who are not aware, the Appomattox River Bridge is a single track bridge. And it's the only single track in about a 40, 50 mile area that is double tracked. So you have a bottleneck. CSX had a train breakdown there, I'll say about a year ago now, and it gummed up the whole East Coast.
It's also the Norfolk.
Yes, thank you. So I've been on a train where going to Norfolk and it's waiting on another train to come through because you have the North Carolina train and long distance trains coming up, and you're waiting on signal clearance to go to Norfolk because you have to wait for the trains to pass. So if you have 2 tracks, you won't have that because there's also 2 tracks all the way to Norfolk too. So getting a new bridge and figuring out, are we building a new 2-track bridge? Are we building a new 1-track bridge next to it? Getting into design will help us answer those types of questions. So those are the kind of questions we want to answer. We also have to figure out, I talked about Occoquan River Bridge being a tough bridge to build. Appomattox is also very high up, and you go from rock to rock to rock. Also, not much road access near there. And you can really only get a good look from the rail. There's no public roads that go right up to it. There's cultural resources at the bottom of the river as well. They're going to be difficult. So, again, a challenge that some people want to take on. We're looking forward to answering some of these questions when we get that grant out. So thank you for asking that.
On the river bridge is easy compared to the Appomattox.
Any other questions before I hand it off to Laura?
Oh, Michael, the siding projects, are they improving existing, building new, or both?
Good question. Building new. We're going from 2 tracks to 3 tracks in that area, the siding projects. And actually, Spotsylvania is a little more complicated because you have the VPRA track starting up there. So in some places you'll have some 4 tracks there. But siding projects, think about adding a 3rd track, but only for about 3 miles. And then some of them in the future will tie into other tracks that we're building. So eventually we want to build a 3rd track corridor all the way to Spotsylvania in the VPRA territory. So we have phases 1 and 2, which we've talked about. I talked about the beginning of phase 3. Phase 3 and 4 then build the 3rd track all the way to Spotsylvania, which would give the operators of Amtrak, I know Jennifer's online, and operators such as VPRA so much more, CSX, so much more flexibility when you have 3 tracks.
And you said 3 miles. Is that a minimum?
That is, yes, more. No, it's not a minimum. It's a maximum. If you're building a siding, generally like 2 to 3 miles. Mm-hmm. About 80, 90% of trains can fit in 2 miles, but the railroads have something called precision scheduled railroading.
Exactly. That's what they said.
They want to have trains up to 3 miles.
Yeah.
Now, the luxury on the corridors to here, you have 9 miles at Arkandale around the Quantico area that is now triple tracked. Siding A, which is going a little faster than some of the other projects, is going to have is going to have 3 tracks as well. And so you're going to have a lot of opportunities, CSXs for the dispatchers, when some of these projects are done, to have a lot more maneuverability up and down the corridor. So the dispatchers love the more tracks, the better. Just like anyone who's driving. You always like
more lanes, the better.
More lanes, more than 2 lanes.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I do want to mention there were actually 2 projects at the very end. Norfolk Southern is also constructing Milford and Galverton. So if you hear word from out western Prince William area, you're building a siding there. Actually, no, that's not a siding. That is 7 miles of full track. And also, Roanoke yard work has to be complete before we
go to the New River Valley. That will be complete this year, and Amtrak's actually looking forward to testing out that track. So New River Valley, you heard a lot about in the next year or two. But this is a component. We can't forget about Roanoke Yard. And when we were with Norfolk Southern executives yesterday, after they left us, they were going to see the progress in Roanoke Yard, because Roanoke's a big yard. You don't want to get trains stuck in the yard. So that's a very important project for us as well that we're funding. And I'm going to hand it to you. Thank you, everyone.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Laura Farmer. I'm the new Chief Financial Officer here at VPRA. I introduced myself virtually last month, and I'm really happy to be here. My background is I've spent 6 years as CFO at VDOT and 21 years there doing all finance work. So I've kind of been 6 weeks in trying to understand everything. So I'll do my best today, but may require some follow-up if you have any questions. But thank you again for understanding. This provides a view of our rolling deposits into the Commonwealth Rail Fund. There is no concern with meeting the expectations in terms of the revenue estimate for this year. Statewide, the Commonwealth Transportation Fund is trending a whole percentage above the revenue forecast. The blip that we see in September in collections happens every year. There is one revenue source for insurance premiums, that its full deposit comes in September. And so every year you'll see that jump. It's not indicative of a change that is ongoing. This provides a rolling 12-month trend analysis of our investments in both the local government investment pool as well as our managed portfolio. We had a significant deposit in October related to our last payment from the 95 concession arrangement from VDOT. My job in the next couple of months is to really dig into our current cash balance and investments and understand what we expect the projects to do to make sure that we're investing in the right places and the right timing to ensure that we get the right return on the investment, maximize that and the cash that we have on hand. And so this will be an area that I'll be working on in the next couple of months. But as you can see, our average invested balance is just shy of $578 million. And our income year to date for interest is just over 12 million. In terms of our managed investments, the gain over this period is about 2.3%. We feel pretty good about that based on everything that we've seen and the work that the agency has done here related to the managed investments. This just provides a picture of that and the distribution of our investments. And again, this is an area that I'll be looking into and doing a lot more work in. When I came from VDOT, Treasury invests for the Commonwealth, so it's an area I'm not used to, but I'm also really excited about digging and seeing what we can do for VPRA. And this just represents our, based on the both pieces, the LGIP and the managed investments, the returns month over month. It's continuing to look like we're reflective against the federal benchmark. I'll turn it back over to DJ for administrative updates.
One question about the return on our managed portfolio. Is the 2.3% gross or net of fees? That's net. Okay. And then in the slide we talked about that there's an asterisk that talks about like effective yield has been reduced by investment management custodian fees, right? Is that because that the fees increased or
No.
Okay. Thanks.
World history. Administrative updates, just organizational updates for this every meeting. We've got 3 current postings. We recently hired Adam Burke, who's an accounting analyst. Welcome. We also, as I emailed earlier this week, Jared Goodman, who was our director of communications and external affairs, took a position in the Spanberg administration. So we are posting for that position. If you've got folks in your network, I sent you the link. It's on our website. So we're looking to refill that. But that's a huge gain for the administration and a loss for us. Thankfully, Jared did a good job of building a team of folks who will step in. So we're confident continue with the good work that's been done by the team. Administrative budget, we talked about this a little earlier. We're in good shape here. As you see, we're a little over on payroll and we're a lot under on professional services. That's just more of our folks doing the work. We hired an asset management person, so a lot of that work has been coming through our staff. So overall, we're looking good there. And then you see the allocation of capital projects compared to the administrative work. Budget adjustment. So this is one, let the minutes reflect, this is the one I botched earlier. We are requesting a new line item for third-party projects. And what this is for is we do work on behalf of somebody who's going to repay us. Stafford is not one of the folks that falls under this line. They've got their own line. But when someone comes to us and they are doing some kind of work close to our right of way and we've got to do design work, we charge them for that work. They pay us. And this is where that's going to be. This is what we don't have a line item for. So Stafford's not one of them, but we're requesting the authority to have this line item in there. It's $175,000. That's our estimate. It doesn't actually come out of our money. It's money that will be reimbursed. So we were hoping for a motion to approve that. And someone that I explained that well, and Stafford's not part of this. Yeah, I know. So any questions on that?
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. That's carried.
Thank you. Here, contracting updates is, as you know, anything that we have over $250,000, we put in this every month. And these are pretty standard, just continue to move projects forward. Supplier diversity, just our supplier diversity, we've been giving this explanation every single month, but it's important just to understand the difference between MDE and subsidy and microbusiness. These are the categories that are established by Virginia. Mr. Cosman is here, correct? So if that's anything wrong, we set a goal every year. We review on that goal. This year, our goal is 7.5%. Through the first quarter, we are behind on that goal, but we feel confident that given the timing of our project spending that we're going to catch up or at least get higher than that over the next few months before the end of the fiscal year. This does not include second quarter numbers though, and we don't yet have an indication on what those look like. You see on the left side about discretionary spend and non-discretionary spend. We only track non-discretionary. So for example, we know we've got to indirect that money, we can't give that to someone else. But just a reminder that we focus on this in every procurement. Mr. Costin was a huge champion for small business, and we'll continue to work towards this goal. Any questions on that?
Just, I think you said we track non-discretionary, we count the swam against discretionary spend when we go out to the market.
Yeah, we don't count the non-discretionary gains without. Sorry if I missed it. All right. Thank you. Any questions for the team?
I was going to ask one thing, and this has to do with, I guess, the change in the weather, where they're calling for a lot more ice in the area. Do we have that soon? How do we plan for something like that, especially if power lines are going to go down and trees fall? I mean, is that something that we're working with VDOT or any other agencies to keep our tracks clear?
Yes, absolutely. And keeping the tracks clear is the most important thing. In fact, last time we had a huge snow event, we had a couple situations where trains were out and trees fell on Southern, trees fell on CSX. We work with them. We have teams set up ahead of time where we do calls, what we're prepared for, where trains are going to be at what point of the storm. VDOT and the Secretary's office have a huge effort that they kind of pay attention to. But our work is more with Amtrak and with freight railroads. Interestingly, over the course of the last 10 years, Amtrak has taken a shift, and I actually support the shift. It used to be that they would run trains no matter what, and kind of like the post office from the 1930s through the entire sleet or whatever it is. They have shifted away from that. They've gone more into a customer-friendly, hey, you know what? We've got a storm coming Saturday and Sunday. We want to cancel these trains, but we will be ready to go when the storm's over. The old model was, it's a 3-hour trip. Yes, we got it in 10 hours. We high five and we got it there. It's off because you're timed out. It's frozen and it takes days to recover from that. Their new approach, which again, I think is the right one, is to cancel the train and be ready with a nice, warm, safe train when the storm's over to move all these people. Because what you found is when there's a lot of snow, people would not show up for the train anyway. You would run the train late with an exhausted crew for a dozen. So absolutely, they're doing that, and they're in regular contact with us about what they want to change. Because they run on freight right of way, sometimes it's the freight saying, I don't care if you want to run, you're not going to run. But it's a good example of strong communication. We talk a lot about Amtrak really rises to communication during crisis, and this is something they really do well.
And I'll also just underscore, the governor does have cabinet folks who are in conversation to prepare for the weather incident. We'll see how big it is this weekend. And VDOT is leading that for us. And I just spoke with the governor's office this morning, the secretary's office this morning, of making sure that VPRA into this part of those conversations, thinking about exactly that DJ.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions, Rob? All right, Mr. Westerman. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. For anybody who doesn't remember who I am, I'm Michael Westerman, General Counsel for VPRA, here to talk to you today about an agreement between us and VDOT relating to a toll-backed financing. We were created in 2020 by the General Assembly. That same year, the General Assembly authorized the Commonwealth Transportation Board to issue toll-backed debt in support of our Long Bridge project. The tolls are derived from a section of Interstate 66 inside the Beltway between 495 and Route 29. It's about a 9-mile stretch, if I got that right. The way the toll lanes work is there are 4 hours in the morning going east, 4 hours in the afternoon going west. The lanes are tolled during that period. They're actually a high occupancy toll. So if you meet the high occupancy requirement, you ride for free. If you don't meet the high occupancy requirement, you pay the toll. The toll is dynamic. It's based on congestion in real time. At any rate, this highway facility generates toll revenues, and the CTB is authorized to pledge those toll revenues, the proceeds of which will be provided to us in support of our Long Bridge project. VDOT is acting on behalf of the CTB as far as negotiating loan documents, putting in an application with USDOT. So the lender will be USDOT, almost certainly. VDOT has put in an application. They're acting on behalf of CTB, like I just said. And so the way it works is we're running the project. We're delivering design and construction of the project. We're using the toll proceeds to do that. We are charged with applying toll proceeds for eligible costs. We're going to supply USDOT with all the relevant reporting for the project, et cetera. We're the project deliverers, we're the project experts, whereas CTB is going to actually be the debtor. They're going to be the ones who are charged with collecting the toll revenues over the years and actually paying the debt service on the loan. So we have nothing to do with paying the loan. We are using the toll proceeds. So we have to collaborate with VDOT in order to do this. So we've negotiated a very simple agreement that's in the board package that says what our roles and responsibilities are. I have to say, VDOT has been a tremendous partner on this. They've already put an application in for us. They've already studied traffic and revenue on the facility. They've done a lot of work already to progress this financing. You can see we're expected to close sometime next calendar year. If there's anything I missed there. I think that's pretty much it. I will say VDOT does have a duty under this agreement to provide to us 100% of the loan proceeds. So it's just all funneling right to us to use for project cost. With that, unless there are any questions, or are there any questions?
So CTB is the collector of.
Sorry, I should have started with that. It's the Commonwealth Transportation.
Yeah, I know that, but they're the collector of the revenue for the toll road.
So VDOT owns and operates the bank. So VDOT itself actually collects the toll revenues, but the CTB is the one.
Yeah, exactly. Does the authority. Okay.
Pledge those.
I got you. So VDOT is the collector.
Yes.
Michael, is the loan TIFIA or RIF?
To be determined. I think right now the document's open both.
Okay.
If there aren't any other questions, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes, carried. All righty. Anything I'm missing?
So, as I mentioned earlier, the construction updates report, so I'm probably not. But I'm gonna tee it up and then hand it over to some truly excellent people. As I mentioned, construction updates report. This is my tee up page. These are the projects we're going to cover today. This is not, again, the totality of all the projects. These are projects that have moved into construction, or at least some form. I asterisk there because I mentioned the procurement later this year. We have some early works on the Franklin track project. I don't want anyone to forget. Tried to misinform you. But since we do have some early works there, we're going to talk about that as well. You see the estimated date of completion and the budget, again, is all in. That doesn't mean it's the contractor's cost. Its budget is all in. So I'm going to start off with Longbridge. Charlene, I saw you come in. Feel free to stand here or over there. It's up to you. Charlene is our director of the Longbridge, both projects, both Longbridge North and South. Everyone you're going to see, the next few people are going to come up, are VPRA employees. We do have support staff that help us, such as folks at WSP, who leads our Longbridge partners, the support team, owners rep, call them different places around the country. And Franklin and Bypass has HNTB that also helps. Kinley Horn also helps with some of these projects as well. So, but again, the next few folks up they'll be introducing themselves as VPRA employees.
Again, Charlene Cleveland, Senior Director for the Longbridge Project. We're going to talk first about the North Package, which has been underway, as you may remember, since early 2024, got through the design phase. And then we had quite a few early works packages. EWPs, all these different numbers refer to different packages. So you can see that we made really good progress on getting through those. The select tree clearing is done. Working really hard on getting the crash wall C mods done, EWP4. Field office construction and East Potomac Park, utility relocations and Main Avenue so that we can get going on building that bridge there. So you might recall that is the critical path for the entire home. We've also done some demonstration piles in Main Avenue. I'll show you some pictures of that. And they're getting ready to erect their trestle in Washington Channel, which will be used to construct the new channel bridge. Upcoming, we're very excited. We'll be starting on retaining wall L. That's they're under the Maryland Avenue overbuild and will allow for the widening of the tracks off to the west in DC. We did start work windows on January 12th. A little bit of time out during the day so that our contractor can be more productive than having to jump off the tracks all the time as trains come through. And we do expect that crash wall C will be done at the interval pit. So just some pictures of what we're doing here. This is adjacent to the Washington Channel. The marina parking lot is what you can see off to the left. We've done all that tree clearing. We might have talked about the heritage tree too that we had to take down. We got legislation from DC that allows us to do that. So all that work has been done now too. Some good news also about this marina parcel is it's looking like we should be getting that relatively soon. Which we were afraid was going to take a long, long time to get, but it's looking like that maybe to us. So that'll open up this whole area for contractor to use for staging. Let's see, what else we got? We have the field office construction there in East Potomac Park. They are claiming that they're going to be ready to occupy that by early February. It'd be nice to have space. Then you can see under the Maryland Avenue overbuild the crash wall C modifications. They've already done crash wall D and crash wall F. Utility work that's going on in Main Avenue, gas line relocation, storm sewer relocation. This is to get them out of the way so that we can start with the Main Avenue Bridge. And then you can just see the demonstration piles that they've done, micro piles in Main Avenue, just to see what the capacity of those are as they support the structures. Last is, again, more pictures of the crane that's going to be erecting the trestle that's going to be used to build the Washington Bridge. All right, any questions about the North Package? I did hear you had a question about the funding from DEDA or from DC for the project. That's $52 million, and that's applied towards the biped bridge that's built.
So that's we have an agreement with them.
Yeah, we have a signed agreement.
That's good to hear. I heard that we did not, so
it
we
took
do.
a long time to get there.
So 52 million, and that's for the PED
Yes.
bridge. Do you call it PED bridge? Is that?
Like Pedro for calling. it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Long Bridge South package, going like gangbusters. They've been under contract since January of 2025. They have been working on building their bulkheads. This first order of business those will support is test files for the new bridge, and that is looking like they will be done with this bulkhead construction by early March, and then by the end of March, they should be done completely driving those test files. You can imagine that the airport is watching this very anxiously. I've delivered a new crane this week and got all kinds of calls, but we're meeting with them next week. We do meet with them all the time, know all the right people to coordinate with, so I think that partnership is going pretty well. They will be finishing their scope validation period in the end of February. They have done tree removal, installed vibration monitoring equipment. They've been looking at some riprap from the old bridge that was used for scour protection that is kind of in our footprint. So they've been doing quite a bit of probing, we call it, out there to kind of determine the extent of that and then figure out what it is and how we can relocate it, or we can just push it off to the side. So that's one of the big activities they're working on right now. Test file, we talked about that, CS6 signal relocation at Roslyn Interlocking, and then we've also talked about the bulkheads. So here's some pretty pictures of work that we completed. Tree clearing, if you've been out there along the GW Parkway recently, you may have noticed this big open area that we've cleared and put in, riprap and gravel, that kind of thing, to stabilize a lot. You can see some of the monitoring devices we put next to the yellow line bridge. Obviously, as we do our work, we want to make sure we keep that bridge safe from Armada. Here's just a picture of the stone I told you we could put down. And then this probing operation I told you about with the riprap and the extensive that how we're going to get our piles through it. And so I think that's it. Unless there's any questions, I will hand it off.
Let me ask. I've heard a conversation, and I'm not sure exactly how it does end, except that it was an effort to get some of the congressional members involved in getting DC to let up a little bit of the tension, if you would, with regard to, well, the hours that we can work. Have you heard anything about
I haven't heard that. I don't know if anybody else has, but we definitely have been pursuing waivers, that kind of thing, and even have a meeting next week with the city administrator to discuss that.
Yeah, so I've not heard anything about congressional folks getting involved, but for those that don't recall, the work windows in Washington, D.C., you can work starting at 7 a.m., no earlier, and at 7 p.m., no later. And they're very strict noise and vibration. I mean, strict, like the noise is 65 or 75 decibels is really low. I mean, we all applaud for Shirley's great presentation. So, we've been working with the Mayor's Office, City Administrator, to get waivers for those, and they have been very, very responsive to us. In fact, as Shirley said, we're meeting next week, and no work ever on Sunday. I've not heard anything about congressional activity, though.
Well, some of it seemed to be aimed at Saturdays and Sundays.
So Saturday's a work day, but Sundays, I've not heard that. But we're looking at all avenues because the faster we get it done, the faster we get back to normal schedules, and the faster we get all of the service that we're working toward. And again, DC's been great. I mean, they have not given us, they've been working with us hard.
I would say they're no harder on us than they are on themselves. DDOT follows the same types of policies that they've been asking us to follow, but obviously they are restricted.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, I'll do after Jim.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Jeff Peltier. I'm the Senior Director for Northern Virginia Projects. I'm going to give a couple updates on our projects in the Alexandria and Franconia corridors. So the Alexandria fourth track is really underway now. CSX selected their contractor last fall. As you know, we had a groundbreaking in November. CSX has provided notice to proceed to their contractor, Fay, on January 9th. So Fay is now doing all the typical things that a contractor to get started would be doing, mobilizing, the field office, doing erosion sediment controls, site access, things like that. CSX is also finalizing some of their utility relocations. They own a fiber optic cable duct bank that runs the entire corridor, so they're finalizing some of that work with their tenants as well. So we should start to see work in the field really by the end of this month up on the northern end of the project at the RO interlocking. So it'll be good to see. One of the visible signs of progress right now that we're seeing is we're getting deliveries of our special track work. One good thing we did about this time last year was we entered into an early works package with CSX that allowed them to procure special track work for the two interlockings on the project, one at RO at the northern end, the other at AF at the southern end. We also have a control point north of Alexandria Station called Slater's Lane. But those materials take months to get procured and designed and brought in, and they're now starting to come in. So it's good to see the kind of the fruits of that effort bearing right when we need it. The way that it will work, this is up at RO, is that Faye, the contractor, will be grading out the site. They'll get it configured for the 4-track configuration, and then CSX track and signal forces will come in. They'll put these panels together, they'll weld the rails together and start installing and commissioning the signal. Just another example of some of how these special track work panels are delivered. The geometry of the rails and the switches and the ties is very precise. So these are fabricated off-site at the plant. They're split up into these panels and brought in by rail car. And they get, all assembled and welded together later on. We're also doing some brush clearing and some remaining tree clearing along the corridor as well. That's the concrete station. So staying within the Alexandria corridor, we have the Alexandria Station and King and Commonwealth Bridges project. This is the joint effort Mike mentioned that VRE is leading. VRE has had a contractor on board for the last couple of months doing things like their submittals, rights of entry, getting permits with CSX, with City of Alexandria, WMATA, and whatnot. And we expect that the full notice to proceed is imminent, should be happening very soon. And then VRE's contractor, Cocosin, will be on site doing all the same things that Faye's doing right now, mobilizing and starting to get work done in field. Bless you. The thing that we're really looking at on the bridges is getting jump spans installed. This is what's going to allow us to start building the foundations for the bridges. So that's going to be the big effort this spring and into the summer. Now, I'm not just going to throw out a term like jump spans and explain what they are. It's a common railroad term, but just to give you an idea of how important they are and how there's such a big muscle movement on the project, right? The two bridges that we're building at King Street and Commonwealth Ave, they're longer than the existing bridges, which is great when we're done, right? We're going to have lots of room for the roadway and pedestrian facilities and station access when that bridge is done. But from an engineering and construction standpoint, it's hard because the new abutments are actually beyond and behind the existing abutments. So the common technique that we're going to use is to install jump spans, which is essentially creating a new bridge span beyond the existing abutment. So you put in a new set of spans, new tracks on that span, and then you excavate all the earth out from under that new span to give yourself the space to build the new foundation. So off to the left, you see a drawing. That's the schematic from VRE's plans for how we're going to build the foundations at King Street. This is a photo up in Connecticut of a jump span in operation. The other key thing for jump span, it allows us to actually keep trains in service while we're building the new bridges, which is critical in Alexandria, just given how much traffic runs through the area. So really good to see this happening. It's very safety critical. It's going to be sensitive. It has to be done at night. So weekends, it's going to take some time to get that done. But you are going to see some updates on this in the coming months. We look forward to seeing that. So moving south to the Franconia-Springfield bypass and the Franconia corridor, DJ mentioned we have had some challenges getting utilities relocated in the footprint. We are making some good incremental progress on that front. One of the utilities will be out next week, weather permitting, of course, to start moving some fiber optic cable. But we also have the jet fuel pipeline that needs to move, and we're working with that utility as well. Our contractor, Flatiron Dragados Herzog joint venture, has been on board. They've been doing great work, getting ready to get the site going and get the work going towards the retaining walls that we want to do this year. This is a little snapshot from one of our field cameras. You get to see kind of what's going on in the main area. This is what we call right now the Ravensworth interlocking, where a lot of the bridge work is going to be. Off to the right, you see some of the silt fence that's gone in for ENS controls. You see a little bit off in the distance where we're grading up on the hill for the walls that are going to be going into place. And then off to the left, you see the CSX track crossing. Getting a crossing across the existing tracks is actually really hard to get approved and done by CSX. We've actually been able to get 3 of them approved for the bypass, which has been a huge win for the project because it really allows us to get equipment and materials flowing through the site. We've had some really good progress in the last month on bypass. One is that we've gotten our construction general permit from DEQ, so we're fully environmentally cleared to start work. But the other key one that Mike mentioned in his presentation is that we've acquired almost all the properties that we need, the right-of-way acquisitions that we need for the project. Most of our right-of-way for the bypass is simply to get access to the site. And I know I've mentioned it before in presentations to the board. This is about as remote as you can get in Northern Virginia. It's really hard to get to the site, and all of our acquisitions are simply to get materials and equipment on site. So it's great that we now have the right-of-way, we now have the environmental clearance to start developing those site access points and haul roads. And the track crossings are a big part of that, of getting equipment flowing across the corridor. Just a couple other photos of that grading work that's in progress for the retaining walls that we're going to be building on the west side of the corridor, and then some of the temporary drainage that we have to put in place to be compliant with our permits. And then lastly, the Franconia-Lorton third track. This project is not in full construction yet. As Mike mentioned, CSX will be procuring their contractor later this summer, but we have been doing some early work for the project. That Ravensworth interlocking that I just showed you, the bypass area, we have to retire that interlocking and move it north so that we can build the bridge. So this past fall, we started building out a new control point north of Franconia Springfield Station. CSX is calling it CP Beltway, Control Point Beltway. It's been graded out, drainage is in place. The panels for this track work have been delivered. It's just a matter now of CSX track and signal forces coming in, assembling those panels, testing and commissioning the signal equipment, and getting it going. So with that, I think I'll leave it for Nova. If there are any questions, I'll hand it off to Rob, talking to River.
Thank you, Jeff. Morning, Madam Chair, Board. My name is Rob Pinkney. I am the Senior Director of Projects. I handle projects that are not NOVA or Longbridge. So I have about a little over a dozen projects, including the sidings, some of the stations, but I also play double duty as the PM for the New River Valley project, which is my pleasure. But today we're just going to run through. I got a little video to share. Jeff set up a good track work, turnout being installed, and do that on social media and some other things. But really excited to kind of really step back and get to the new folks. For New River Valley, it's actually 2 different projects, and Mike alluded to that. It's actually one in Cambria, with the old part of Christiansburg, and also 9 miles away in Bradford is the Iowa facility. So we work on those as one big project, being delivered by Norfolk Southern to us as a turnkey project. It's a little bit different. So we really have a big collaborative stake in it. We're paying the bills, we show up to all the meetings, but they're really driving the project and help with them. And it's really unheard of. And you heard Mike say yesterday we were out there, they had 6 executives fly up from Atlanta and join us for site. It's really important to them. They are really digging in. Amtrak has been a great partner. We're having multiple meetings a week. And it's gone, anybody who's keeping track, we went from 0 to construction in about 9 months, which is unheard of, right? And we're well into construction now. We're excited to share some pictures and some video for that. We're still on track for sometime in 2027. Reserved when in 2027, there's extra work to do after they turn off, it's basically new house, they hand us the keys, and then we have to do some extra work to get up and running with the digital technology piece of things. So working on that. But we've really got some good stuff done already. I alluded to the turnout and switch in the western portion. We've got over 100 drilled shafts done to support the platform. The platform is about 1,000 feet long, and about 2/3 of that is covered by a nice canopy. Pretty robust, keep you out of the snow and rain out there. Over at the layover site, we've done a landing strip worth of light poles. There's a picture of them, looks like a light pole every about 50 feet. That's to give Amtrak folks the ability to service the new trains that are coming there. So, they work on the underground conduits, and you'll see some of the track actually already skeletonized out there, but they have not been ballasted yet, so it needs to come up and get some of the big stone in there. Ongoing, lots of stuff. They've been fighting the weather for sure, and this weekend is not any help. But they've done a really good job. They're getting out of the ground. We've done a bunch of the grade beams. So around the platform walls, you see some signal infrastructure going in. Exciting stuff around the retaining walls that are starting to come on site. We'll see that. We'll show you a little picture of that as well. Lightweight cellular concrete was used as a fill material. You'll see the grade of the site. It's actually pretty challenging if anybody's been out there at Depot Street. At its tallest, it's about 22, 23 feet below or above, where the station site is. So we've got to have some retaining walls that we have to fill some grade to make it a nice, even parking lot. There'll be lots of parking lot grade. It's about 10%. Over at the labor site, like I said, really not as glamorous, and a lot of good stuff to look at, but working on a lot of underground utility work, setting up for the compressors and the water cabinets and whatnot. So, like I said, coming up, we got a little, still more retaining wall, another retaining wall. There's actually 3 different retaining walls at Cambria, and then working on the modular building footings. That's been a big one as well. So,
I'm sorry. What's the acreage of what's the footprint of the station?
The station, it's like 2 acres. It's not very big. And I'll show you a picture. We'll be looking west, and it's a really skinny site.
Yeah.
And the team's done a really good, the team's done a really good job of fitting. We're going to have 150 parking spaces out there, 3 bus spaces, 6 ADA, about 6 EV charging stations as well. So really, but it's tough. It's skinny. It's going to be a one-way in, one-way out facility. And we've done, I think, a really good job shoehorning it.
And we own that, right?
Yes. Yep. Not quite yet. When it gets turned over to us, when they hand us the keys, we own it.
Not the right of way. We don't have the track there.
Okay.
Sorry.
The station.
Yeah.
Yes, the station parcel.
Correct. And the station building is going to be managed by the New River Valley Passenger Rail Station Authority, which is a whole different entity. We're responsible for the track and for the platform, the lighting, the parking, all that. They're going to take over the station building, which I think folks know, it's the same station that was servicing passenger rail there from the early 1906, early 1970.
Yes.
And real quick, the previous deal we had, we would have owned the Virginia line. We swapped that to get to here. We also purchased the Manassas line, so mileage we have in our total is roughly similar. But it's a good question because we did previously own the track and lane going into the old location, but this is one of the few relatively flat locations, at least where the track is, in the New River Valley. So we're going to use about half the yard. They're going to use about half the yard.
Yeah. This is with NS.
100.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And to DJ's point, yes, so the building will be renovated as a separate project, but it'll be about a year or 2 after us. So we're going to have the station up and running, and they're going to start working on the building. That was really around how the structure was. NS wanted to kind of move this along as quickly as possible, and they didn't want that as part of it. So.
I thought we did buy the track, the right of way. We did not.
So I'm talking about this 28, 30 miles we have in the Virginia line, all the way from the end of Roanoke Yard to the old location we call Cinnabar in Christiansburg. That we don't own anymore. We will own the pocket track and the area, the parking lot and the station area. And why don't you just go to the next picture?
Well, you said any more. So what is that? Did we own it once and we don't now? Or
What we did is we purchased it back in the original deal back in 2021, 2022.
right?
And then when we came to the board in January 2023 and said, holy smokes, this isn't $250 million, it's $1 billion.
Yes.
We were able to renegotiate with Norfolk Southern. We sold them the Virginia line company.
Yes, I realize that. I'm with you.
So they own that.
Right.
And then we bought the Manassas line.
Right. I would know that.
Earned the right to use this right of way, but we didn't purchase. This is their main line, so we didn't purchase that right of way. We just.
Oh, I thought that was a purchase.
This is NS's N line, which is one of their double track.
Right. Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
So we will have a passenger track that we share with NS as part of an MFW track there as well. And I'll show you a couple pictures here as we move forward. All right. Credit goes out to our comms folks. They went out and they did a video and then they did the voiceover and they did a great job. And it's been out on social media, but I thought it would be a good thing to share with folks here.
The New River Valley Passenger Rail Project will enhance freight and extend passenger service between Roanoke and the New River Valley, returning passenger rail service to the historic Cambria Yard. Cambria served rail passengers from 1904 to 1979. The project will construct a high-level platform, canopy, parking lot, siding track, and layover facility. In November 2025, Norfolk Southern Crews installed the Western Turnout, which is a piece of track that lets a train move from one track to another. The existing section of mainline track is systematically removed using excavators to create the opening for the new turnout. Crews then level the designated area to create a solid foundation. The turnout piece was pre-built off-site as a complete skeleton, consisting of ties and rail fastened together. The pre-assembled turnout is then maneuvered into proper alignment with the adjoining rail segments. The rail ends are then fixed to achieve a continuous running surface. The track structure is filled with crushed rock or ballast and smoothed to bring it into alignment. These final adjustments ensure the switch, which is the mechanism that moves the turnout, operates smoothly and safely. The newly installed turnout connects the platform track, which runs parallel to the main line, allowing passenger trains to transition easily between the two. For more information, please visit VPRA's website at www.vpra.virginia.gov/projects/NRV project.
So yeah, so some of that special track work that Jeff showed now getting installed for us out in NRV. So it's really exciting. That's actually the western turnout that leads into the passenger track, the platform. So here's a shot of the project site at Cambria. You can see the depot building at the top there. It's kind of squished in the middle, a little blue-grayish, if you will. At the very top is the old white freight building that was way back beforehand. But we're going to be using the blue-gray one as part of the new project. But as DJ said, like very skinny site. It's long, it's skinny. Like I said, right, you can see Depot Street to the left, about 20 feet up above. So this picture is to show the drilled shafts operation. This is actually a little bit dated, but it gives kind of a good overview of the site. All right, so this is a little bit more recent. On the left is the cellular concrete. So basically, it's stuff that looks like, feels like Cool Whip. It hardens up. It's like a flowable fill. I picked a piece about this big yesterday with one hand, showed off the strength. But it's really used to pull us up to grade. We have some poor soils out there as well, and this kind of reduces the load on the retaining wall. So we're going to have a retaining wall, if you will, around the edges of both of those at the far left and along the track to support the parking lot. So the parking lots will be perched up on that cellular concrete. Off to the right, just out of the picture, would be the depot building. We've done a lot of storm sewer work out there. There's almost over 1,000 feet of pipe in the ground already. So we're kind of coming around the corner on that. Good stuff. This is the platform coming along. Again, so here's the building. Easy reference point, you're looking west on the left picture. Those are the grade beams. So underneath those grade beams, you can see sticking out of the ground and a little bit orange on top of the rebar. That's the drilled shafts. Those are about 25 feet long, or deep, I should say. Like I said, over 100 of those. They support the grade beams, which is all that epoxy coated rebar. A lot of steel, a lot of concrete. On the right side is the eastern portion of that, so a little further along. What's sticking out and to the right of this picture will actually be the pilaster will support the platform. So the platform, again, it will be 4 feet up, 4 feet high. So this is them coming out of the ground. A lot of belt suspenders. That thing's not going anywhere, right? So this is really exciting work for us. And we're starting to see, people drive by, you don't see much, and now you're starting to see a lot of things happen. So
before you move on, can you explain the wide, narrow platform?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the track offset is fixed, and then we have the passenger track that needs to go in there. And there's only so much space between the face of the building and that track. So in order to squish the platform all the way and be continuous, so we didn't want it to have a break in the middle, we actually had to step it in from 15 feet to 10 feet as we go past the building. So it's actually a tight squeeze right through there. It's only in front of the building, and we've stopped the canopy in that area. So the canopy actually goes on both sides of the building. You can still see the building the best we can, but again, coming the platform up 4 feet starts to inhibit kind of the view shed of the building. But yeah, I hope to have updated rendering soon that we can share. That I think would be a good visual, but you might have caught it in the video. A little bit more narrow through there.
I believe this will be the third high-level platform. Look at their story. Third high-level platform in Virginia. Roanoke, Fort News, and New River Valley. I know our chair asked about that conversation before the board meeting. So it's good to see that progress. And as we tackle new projects, we'll always try to get that high-level platform, which is good for everyone. Allows people to roll to just walk straight from the platform without having to step up, go right up the chair.
Yeah. All right, on the left side is the signal bridge going in. It's actually now installed. So it's actually a massive structure that's just to the west of the platform or of the building, giving the train signal information. So you can see that up on the right is the retaining wall. So you can see the cellular concrete, the Phillips up in the back. So this is a T-wall. We tried to match somewhat to Hokie Stone. I will not say that, but we didn't take that into consideration. If something else relatively close. So that's a T-wall. That the whole time. We do have another wall that's actually a cut wall. We'll be holding Depot Street. So that's a different type of wall, and you'll see that in the coming months here. Switching over to Radford. So a 2-track layover there. So we'll be able to service trains. This is a facility for Amtrak folks to operate and maintain and take a look at the trains. We're excited to see the Aero trains coming soon, but in the meantime, we have the ability to wire the trains to turn them around just to the east of this. So here's the train. The trains will see overnight, get serviced. We'll check the pantograph when Aeros come through. You can see that the skeletonized track doesn't have ballast in it yet, so it's basically in place. I told you about many light poles. That's what those little gray dots are, or light poles. We do have a dimmer switch on the light poles too, because we don't want it to be lit up like a Christmas tree all night long. So only when Amtrak folks really need it. So we've tried to take that into consideration as well. Signal bridge at Bradford as well, going in for our use. On the right is a lot of conduit, so lots of conduit underground. You gotta imagine there's, like I said, compressors, there's electrical, there's all sorts of things to plug in the trains overnight. So there's a lot of hidden stuff underground. There'll be a modular building there as well for the crew to get their orders. That's coming. We're working on foundations for that now. Any questions about River Valley that I can answer?
Nice.
It's early. Is there any questions?
Not with the acquisition that was taking place on April 7th, being purchased. What kind of effect is that going to have?
There are two answers to that. The first one is that we have a high level of confidence that the agreements that we have are merger proof. So I mean, they have to abide by them regardless of whether they merge or not. And that puts Mr. Westerman in scheme, because that's the first question we asked. I was like, no, you should not be about this. So we're going to turn agreements, but also Union Pacific has shown that they are fans of passenger rail. They're going to make sure that their network continues to run. But we don't foresee any issues going forward. I mean, you don't know till you know.
We're going to get an intercontinental passenger. Cross country.
Yeah.
We have that now. You just have to have bound to go with it. You got to get to New River Valley first.
Yeah.
To DJ's point, if I can add to the praise for Mr. Westerman, when we purchased the master plan, we made sure it was a purchase, not an easement. That could be revoked. It's a purchase, so that's something that can't be changed by Union Pacific or anyone else. So he and his team have always been good about educating us, tell us, try to purchase. Don't just get an easement or something of that nature. You have 100% rights when you purchase.
Any questions? Exciting stuff.
Yes, no, thank you. Thank you to the staff who presented. It was very helpful, very clear. It's great to see that video. So see that real time. So thank you all. We are going to break for lunch. Lunch is outside. I've been told. So we will reconvene at 12:45. So we'll adjourn until then.